Hello everyone! Today we're going to go over this quick tutorial for how to create an ombre nail with dip powder, so let's get started. I recommend using a brush that's a little bit on the denser side, similar to one of these when you're creating an ombre nail. As you can see, this is a pretty messy process, so make sure you're working on a surface that you don't mind getting messy. I also wanted to take a minute and talk about how you should be holding the brush when you're trying to create an ombre nail. Instead of holding the brush like you normally would hold a makeup brush, I actually recommend holding it overhand like you would hold a drumstick. That way it affords you a little bit more leverage so that you can scoop up the dip more easily and then tap it onto the surface of the nail. The trick to getting the perfect ombre nail is using angles to your advantage. Use the number 2 base bond to paint a thin strip down the center of the nail. Then, using the makeup brush, use it to scoop up a generous amount of your first color of dip. Tilt the tip of your finger upward and gently tap off the dip powder, aiming toward the tip of the nail. By aiming the dip powder toward the tip of the nail while the nail is being held at an angle, it ensures that the dip powder is going to fall toward the center of the nail, which will create a seamless blend. Hold your finger downward to gently tap off the excess from your first color, and then use a cuticle pusher, small spoon, or another similar tool to pour your second color over the remaining base bond. When that's finished, just tap off the excess and allow the first layer to dry. Once the first layer is dry, use a fluffy brush to brush off the excess dip powder and go in with your second coat of base bond. For the second coat, apply the base bond slightly closer to the cuticle line and the sidewalls, covering more of the nail. Then, starting with the second layer, I recommend alternating the starting color you're working with. So hold your finger slightly downward at an angle this time, and use the dip powder to sprinkle it onto the nail, aiming toward the cuticle line. Hold your finger slightly up or to the side to tap off the excess dip powder, and use whatever tool you're using to then scoop up the remaining dip and cover the rest of the base bond with your second color. Gently tap off the excess dip powder again, and once it's dry, use a fluffy brush to brush off any remaining dip powder on the nail. For the remaining layers, repeat this process, alternating your starting color each time and working closer and closer to the cuticle line with each layer. To ensure the sides of the nails get evenly coated, make sure you're turning your finger back and forth while you're tapping the dip powder off the brush. When you get to the point that you're working all the way to the cuticle line, use a toothpick or an orange stick to drag it along the cuticle line, scraping off any excess dip powder. Keep in mind that it's recommended you use a coat of clear dip powder over top of your ombre, particularly if you're working with any dark colors or glitter colors, to ensure that you protect the pigment and/or the glitter during buffing. Once you've done your final layer and you've brushed off the excess dip powder, use a generous coat of Solidify and continue with your normal filing, buffing, and shaping process. Once you've finished buffing and you've thoroughly washed your hands, you can apply a second coat of Solidify and finish your manicure like normal. Last but not least, apply cuticle oil to your finished manicure and you're all done. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. As always, let me know if you have any questions, and happy dipping!